Alrighty, so I'm getting ready to put the updated sleeve in the this Ds450 motor. This is the newer update that they came out with, the last update they came out with for the cases. And as you can see, the cases get drilled out a little bit to accept this flush here. And then they'll go through both sides, right? And then this piece has a threaded center, and it has a right hand side and then a left hand side per the as we're looking at the engine right now. Also, here is the actual installation instructions. So it talks about the new components, the redesign, what needs to get changed, the install and torques and stuff like that, the parts you need, the special socket holder, and then the torques in the back. It is possible to take the older cases, the 2008s and such, get those cases re-drilled. The only place I know that does it is actually BCS in Massachusetts. They will do it, but you need the engine apart to ship it to them. As far as I know, the engine needs to be apart. If you order a 2011 and up, those cases should already be ready for this version. I believe so. Just kind of reading the instructions here, where it talks about model year 8, 9, 10. Anything else would be superseded. So, and then here's the rubber inserts. This is what goes in between here, like so. They get all pressed together, and then the swing arm bolt is what's going to go through here and through the engine. So the other thing I'm going to do for the install of these, I'm going to apply Loctite on both sides, just because it doesn't talk about it in the installations, but just with past experience, since the block is aluminum and these are steel, two different metals is going to cause some pretty fast corrosion. And the threads on these two items are extremely tight, like super close tolerance, and the threads also have Loctite on them. Alright, I'm going to go ahead and install them. Alright, so that's what they look like set in place, and then here's the rubber. The rubber's going to get pressed in there later. I applied anti-seize to this edge here, and then also internal threads got anti-seize, just to keep the mount from seizing inside the motor. So I think that's just a good step. And the block is aluminum, and then the sleeve is steel, so that just it's a good cause for dissimilar metals and causing some severe corrosion. And then and then the same with the other side. I'll Loctited or anti-seize them, and then I'm gonna put them together. Alright, and then the other piece to this is the special installer. And here, see how it has the spline that matches to the dots, or the inserts, the holes in the sleeve, so that way you can tighten both sides. And then here's the other side. So, and you line it up. Lock it in there. Lock it in there. And that's the process, like that. Alright, next step in this process is a 17mm socket, 17 both sides, and then you'll be able to torque this down. The way I'm going to do this, I only have one hand on my cell phone, is I'm going to step on the wrench, and then I'm going to put the torque wrench on the other side to be able to torque it down. The torque on this is 107 to 114 foot-pounds for the Americans. That's actually a moderately decent torque. So I'll see how well this goes together. Alrighty, got it all torqued down. 100 was it 110 or so foot-pounds. That is quite a bit. So the way I did it is basically had my foot up here, had the torque wrench right here, and then obviously having my other hand on top of the engine, I was able to kind of balance it all and torque it down. The other thing that I recommend is when you apply the anti-seize, put it on this edge here as well. Let's see if it'll focus. Put it on this edge right here. So then this gap between the, right in here, between the insert and the block will also have a nice little bit of anti-seize on it to prevent that corrosion and prevent those pieces from locking up. Alright, so now, sad thing is, these golden ends are stuck, so I'm going to try and get a little pry bar in here and work it apart little by little. Alright, so I was able to get it to pop out. The one thing I want to note, I want to bring up, is when this is in here, and it's all locked into place like you would. The big idea is to come over here and you can smack this with a hammer to pop it all out, right? However, don't really do that because all that's here is just this rubber O-ring, and that's just rubber, so when you're hitting this end, it's not really transferring the energy very well. So yeah, just be mindful of that. The way I did it, I had it, stuck in there, and I just took this tiny crowbar, and I was able to work in there slowly but surely and pop it off. Take your time because these pins aren't really that deep. So before you know it, when you're using your pry bar, let's see if it'll balance. Using your pry bar, and you're coming, and you're prying on it. See, the pry bar doesn't have a whole lot of leverage by the time you hit those pins. So just be nice and gentle, and it'll eventually come off. And then luckily, going the other way, you can either get a big punch, right? Come through here with the big punch, straight through that way, knock it out. Or now, give it some taps. More taps than I thought. Just like that. It'll pop out. And there you go. As far as I know, this is my first time ever doing these myself, but I've just read a lot about them, and I've been in the scene for quite a while to know the details. So there's that piece. You need this tool. There's no way I can imagine trying to torque these down, at 100 foot-pounds. Oh shit, you know what? I don't know if my torque wrench is off or what, but oh, you can't see in there. But look at this. See that metal stress right there? So I wonder if the publication torque spec is wrong, because that is clearly stressed. And even looking down at that insert, it's pretty easy to see that that has a concave trajectory or direction. And then this side is definitely the same. Well, shoot. That's not a very good discovery. So yeah, maybe my torque wrench is off. And that was causing the error or the stress, but plain as day, 107 to 114 foot-pounds. So, I got nothing to say. I don't know what I would recommend to do instead of that, except for less, unless, like I said, my torque wrench is off. So I will leave it at that and see what I discover later. Okay, so here's the next part. I'm just gonna go with it with those inner bushings the way they are, because I'm worried if I take them out they'll just crack, and I don't know, I'll just leave it the way it is. But with these with the rubber bushings, I just used laundry soap to put a little soap and water on them, and it even says to do that in here as well. So I have this big C-clamp. I'm going to go ahead and start cranking them down and see how it works. Okay, progress so far. The right side went in no problem. The left side, it's kind of bulging out on me a little bit. I just put some more soap and water in there. But when I crank on it, you can kind of see how it squishes. So, yeah, that just might be, you know, the cost of doing business. I don't really know. But I'm going to keep spinning it, and hopefully it'll flush up in there. It seems like it's going somewhat. This side went in nice and smooth. Little crank. Yeah, there's that side. So that's good. And I got soap and water right here. More soap than water. And I was applying that to the inside of the bushings as time was going on. Okay, and that's it. It did ended up squishing in there pretty good. It pushed itself out a little bit, but nothing too bad. I have it be known, this thick rubber piece that's right here, that's actually part of the bushing, because you can see here it's missing. These bushings, rubber ones, are used, but they're not new. So I think if they were new, the rubber, if they were new, the rubber would be the whole way around, and then it would be just that one little piece of protection between the sleeve and the rubber mount. So for the torsional, if the swing arm bolt is in here and it's trying to twist up, it'll help reduce that impact. And this side, yeah, so this side doesn't have it at all. It's all gone. There's just a little residue that's left, but I'm gonna leave it like that and bolt her up here within the next week or so, get it installed. So yeah, I did some more reading, looking at the torques to make sure I did everything right, and I double checked the torque wrench, and yeah, I'm definitely at, just under 110, 105, give or take. So yeah, the fact that those bushings kinked in like that, I doubt they're supposed to do it, that's for sure. So it would just be wise when you're torquing them, maybe go a little less. I don't know, if I did it over again, I'd probably run 95 foot-pounds or so to prevent that from happening. But then again, I'm sure this is it's a pretty stressed place, you know, having that bolt go through here. So having it torqued down nice and tight is also wise. So I don't know, not really sure. So I went ahead and double checked these to make sure like the Newton meter conversion was correct to foot-pounds, and everything was. So maybe I was thinking there was a typo, and that's the reason why I you know, possibly may have over torqued those bushings. And then the other thing I did is I checked my torque wrench. The torque wrench looks like it's around 110 plus 5, so 115, give or take. So yeah, you know, I guess I was a foot-pound over, but yeah, that was kind of interesting how that happened. I'll have to double check this torque wrench. Maybe the calibration's off, and then that kind of stressed those bushings. So word to the wise, just in case, I would run the lower, the 107 foot-pounds or the 145 Newton meters, and then see how that ends up. Alright, so I got one last possible theory to figure out why those cracked. So here's the new one. Here's the new sleeve I haven't used, and they thread together, right? And that's as tight, well, finger tight as these two will go. So one theory is, you know, when I put the sleeve up to here, you know, that's kind of the length of it. So these cases were updated to accept this this style of bushing. These were actually 2008 cases, which had a pretty big problem of stress cracks right through here, through the sprocket and such, from the stress of the swing arm. The best way to prevent that, if you do ride hard, is to always make sure your swing arm bolt is torqued down for sure. Over my years of racing, that's the biggest thing that I've learned is, you know, if you're trying to keep those cases stock, make sure that swing arm bolt is always torqued and always tight. But needless to say, coming back here, my one other idea, since I did follow the torque specs in the guide, is that when BCS updated these cases, they might have their just different dimensions that they follow. So the tolerances could have been off. So by the time I was torquing it down, right, the torque was ending up on this lip coming into the case right here. And maybe it's designed from BRP or such that it has more of a middle pressure, and the torque, the ending tightening, should have been compensated in the middle here, not on the edges of these bushings. So yeah, that was my one other theory. So to go back, maybe if you have 2010, 11 and up cases, or 2011 to stay safe, that you won't have this stress problem that I did, you know, showing up on the inside, because there could be a different tolerance for this inside dimension, and BCS, I don't know, might not follow that quite so strictly, or just, you know, in the errors of manufacturing, stuff gets off. So that's my one other theory. So essentially, BCS updated this 2008 case to accept this new bushing. Possible tolerances were off, and that's why this cracked. The other is that my torque wrench was out of spec, and that's what caused this to crack. And then was my last idea. Oh, and then I was gonna say, doing the newer cases, reinstalling this, following the torque specs, that might not create any problems at all. However, I do not have the newer cases from the OEM to compare it all to. I just have older cases that have been updated to accept this style of bushing.